Hi guys, so I know I gave you a handout talking all about how we do parliamentary procedure, and it's just the basics to help get our meetings a little bit more organized. But I thought that this might be a little easier for those of you who don't understand everything out of text. So I'm just going to go through it really quickly, and hopefully this helps. So the gavel tapping. Normally you only tap the gavel once, and it's always after a motion. Whether it passes or it fails, you tap the gavel once. So there's a lot of different motions that you can make, and they're split into 3 different categories. You have your privilege motions, your subsidiary, and your incidental. In the charts that I gave you for the handouts, I only put a couple from each category, the ones that I think we're going to be using the most. And obviously one is the main motion, one is making amendments to the motion, adjourning, putting things on the table, question of privilege. And in your chart you'll be able to see, and this will be really helpful for the person who's chairing the meeting, because it's a really great cheat sheet. So if somebody makes a main motion, that you can see that yes, it needs a second, yes, it's debatable, yes, it can be amended, and it needs a majority vote to pass. So make sure you utilize this. I would definitely bring it with you to the meetings because it's a really great resource for you to use. So I really quickly just want to talk about making a main motion and how we do it, and kind of scripted what do we say when we're making that main motion. So you always have a team member, which in our case is another FFA member in the audience, and what they do is they have to stand, and the chair has to recognize them and say, you know, whatever their name is, yes, you may talk. And that person is going to say, I move that, and fill in the blank. So I move that for a fundraiser this year we do gift wrapping at Barnes & Noble. And that person sits down, and the second comes, and the second is from any other team member in the meeting. They don't stand, they don't raise their hand, the chair doesn't recognize them, they just say, I second that motion. And then this is the chair's role to step up. And there's a lot of repeating here as far as how many times you have to repeat the stated motion, but it's just to help so that everybody's organized, and you know, you could have 5 or 10 different debates going on about the same motion, and it just keeps everybody organized and on track. So the chair is going to say, it has been moved and seconded that, and then they would fill in the blank. So for our example, it's been moved and seconded that the FFA does a fundraiser this year for gift wrapping at Barnes & Noble. Is there any debate? And if there is debate, then people would stand up and they would voice their opinions, and it would go back and forth until finally it looks like nobody else is debating and the chair is ready to move on and vote yes or no for this motion. So the chair would then say, the question is on the adoption of the motion that, and then fill in the blank. So for our example, the question is on the adoption of the motion that the FFA does a fundraising this year at Barnes & Noble with gift wrapping. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Everybody will say aye. Those opposed say no. And then if the ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. We will fill in the motion. We will do an FFA fundraiser this year at Barnes & Noble for gift wrapping. And then you tap the gavel one time. Is there any new business? And you move on to the next main motion, or you adjourn. Now, if the noes have it, then you say, the noes have it, and the motion is lost. We will not have an FFA fundraiser for gift wrapping at Barnes & Noble this year. You wrap the gavel one time. Is there any new business? And you would start over again. So that's how you make a main motion, and that's probably the most important motion for us at this point. But there also is something that I just want us to be aware of, and that's how do you amend a main motion. Now, when you amend a motion, you can only amend a motion while the main motion is still being active and is still being debated. So if we've already voted and it's passed or failed, we can't go back and amend it. We would have to bring up a whole new main motion. So I hope that makes sense. So how you would amend, it's very similar as far as how it starts. You have a team member stand, addresses the chair recognizes that person, and then they would say, I move to amend by adding the words, and then they change it to however they want to change it. And then another team member, without standing up, without being addressed or raising their hand, says, I second the motion. So now that's been properly moved and seconded, the chair can then start the debate. So the chair would say, it is moved and seconded to amend by adding the words, and you add the words. If the amendment is adopted, the motion will read, and then you restate the main motion with the changes made. Hope that makes sense. And then, is there any debate? And then debate will go back and forth, and when the chair sees that the debate has started to die and it looks like it's time to vote on this motion, then we go through the exact same process we did with the main motion as far as passing or failing the amendment. So the question is on amending the motion. You state the original motion so that if the amendment is adopted, the motion will read, and then you read the motion with the added words, with the amendment. All those in favor of adding the words say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. You tap the gavel once. The question is now on the motion as amended, which is, and you restate the main motion, but you add the amendment to it. Is there further debate? And then the members would go back and debate the main motion with the added words, with the revision, with the change. Or the noes have it and the amendment is lost. You tap the gavel one time. The question is now on the motion as is now on the motion to, and then you state the motion that was previous without any kind of amendments because that amendment didn't pass. Is there any further debate? So this is the important part. When you make a motion, it's important to always stay with that motion until it's been voted on, passed, or failed. And so if somebody makes a motion to amend, so if I made a motion to have a fundraiser at Barnes & Noble where the members would gift wrap, but somebody would want to amend it and say, I think that we should strike out the word Barnes & Noble and add the words Macy's. So the chair then would have to say, the question is on amending the motion of doing an FFA fundraiser gift wrapping at Barnes & Noble, so that if the amendment is adopted, the motion will read that the FFA does a gift wrapping fundraiser at Macy's. Does that make sense? So if whether it gets passed or it fails, you still have to make a motion to even do the fundraising activity in the first place. So it's really important that we keep in the back of our heads what the main motion is and know that we have got to make a vote on it, yes or no, before we can move on to another main motion. So I really hope this helps. And if there's any questions, of course, I'll be there. So good job, guys.